Okay, now let's try and solve the first question. Okay, the question says expand and simplify. So I'm going to use the distributive law. So it's equals to 11x squared followed by the next one minus 6x minus 55x plus 30. Now the x and x, I can combine them together. That's the answer. Okay, now let's move on to the next one. Okay, do the same thing. It's equals to 21x squared minus 7x plus 6x minus 2. So the answer is 21x squared minus x minus 2. Okay, question 2. Now we are supposed to factorize. Okay, we are asked to factorize it. So given that there are 3 terms, I can see there is 3 terms. So I'll think of step number 3, which is using the multiplication frame so that I can get the answer. So I draw a frame. First, I will put in the first term, and then I'll put in the last term here. Now, given that it's x, so it must be x times x. Now, then I'll use my calculator, mode 33, and I'll try and key in the coefficient 1, negative 9, positive 8. And my calculator gives me positive 8. So I'll write a negative 8. And my calculator gives me a positive 1. I'll write a negative 1. Then I will fill in the blanks. Okay, this blank comes from negative 8 and x. So multiply them together, I get negative 8x. This blank comes from x and negative 1. So it's actually negative 1x. So I'll write it as negative x. I'll double check. Negative 8x and negative x is negative 9x. Just to confirm my answer before writing it down. So what's my answer? The two factors are x minus 8 and x minus 1. Whichever order. Okay, that's my answer. Now, let's move on to the next one. Okay, it looks the same, but please check for common factor. So for this question, there's actually a common factor of 3. So I'm going to take out the 3. Now what do I do with the 3? I just keep it there. Then I will draw my frame here. Do the same thing. I'll just fill in with the one that is already simplified, alright? So x squared here, then x by x. And when I use my calculator gives me negative 2. So I write positive 2 here. Calculator gives me negative 5. So I write plus 5. And I'll fill in the blanks. So my answer is x plus 2, x plus 5. Now if time permits, you can actually check your answers by expanding it. Okay, next question. There is no difference at all. The only difference now is there's a x and there's a y. But do the same thing, okay? It's 3 terms. Start drawing your multiplication frame. Now you have to put in according to the order. So I'm looking at x. So you see this is the x squared term. The second one is the x term. And the last one doesn't have any x. So you have to put it with the highest power of x to the lowest power. Now ignore all the x and ignore all the numbers first. Just fill in the variable. So x squared is from x and x. Y squared is from y and y. The calculator will take care of the numbers for me. So when I use the calculator gives me positive 1 over 7. Positive 1. So I'm going to write a negative 1 and the 7 I'm going to write it here. So I repeat, the calculator actually gives me 1 over 7. So I put a negative here, negative 1, then I put a 7 here. Now the next number that the calculator gives me is negative 4. So I'm going to write a plus 4 here. Then I fill in the blanks. Okay. So 28xy minus xy, isn't it 27xy? So good, I got the answer. Then I will just write it down here. Okay, next. Okay, what about this question? It's actually 4 terms. So 4 terms likely is by grouping 2 by 2. So I'm going to check out the first 2 terms. AB minus 2A. Anything in common? Yes. So there's a common A. It has to be a common variable. If it's just a common number, it's not considered as a good grouping. Then you have to rearrange it. Okay, so in this case, I found an A. After which, I'm going to copy this B minus 2 here. I'm going to leave a blank and copy B minus 2 here. Then I'm going to ask myself, where did this B comes from? It actually comes from this term. So if it comes from this term, what is missing? Positive 3. So just to confirm, I use positive 3 multiplied by negative 2. I found out that it's actually negative 6. So I'm correct. So A plus 3, whatever that's outside the bracket, you just write it together. And B minus 2. And that's the answer. Okay, let's continue with part E. Okay, again, I see 4 terms. But looking at the first 2 terms is 2x squared minus 12y. I don't have any variable in common that I can take it out. So I might want to take out a x. So I'm eyeing the last one. I'm going to write the last one here. As long as you have something in common, you can use the grouping method. So given the first 2 terms, I can see that there's a common x. Okay. Now, again, I'm going to copy this over. And I'm going to check, where did my x come from? My x comes from this term. Okay. So what is missing is a positive 4. And check again, positive 4 multiplied by negative 3y, that gives me negative 12y. So the 2 statements are the same. So what's my answer? Okay, now let's go on to the last question. Okay, look at the question very carefully. Do you spot anything in common? Can you see that there's a x minus y that is in common? So actually my common factor is x minus y. If I were to take it out, the x minus y from the first term, I'm left with 5. From the second one, I'm left with x minus y. Okay, some of you are not comfortable with using a curved bracket. You may choose to write a square bracket like what I did now. Alright, after which, the answer. Okay, now I have to use a curved bracket because I'm going to open out this I'm going to do this. And that's my answer. Okay, that's